Alps, winter, 1944. The wind howled like an angry god. A German Gebirgsjäger mountain battalion pushed through the whiteout, their ropes tied between them, rifles slung, goggles fogged with ice. Ahead of them, barely visible, were fleeing Allied commandos. Captain Wilhelm Krantz, one of the Reich's most feared mountain officers, shouted through the storm. "Don't let them escape. Push forward." But the Allied squad vanished behind a wall of swirling snow. The German soldiers followed. And then the world simply swallowed them. Men froze mid-step. Mid-breath. Mid-thought. One soldier's glove slipped from his hand. And froze in mid-air before hitting the ground. No screams. No gunfire. Just instant, impossible stillness. Then the blizzard stopped. The mountain became silent. The battalion never returned. Both sides were listed as missing in action. For 75 years, the story was told like a myth. The mountain took them. No one knew how true that was. Alps, summer 2019. Global temperatures spiked. Glaciers retreated. Ancient ice cracked open like old bone. Two climbers, Jess Marshall, an American glaciologist, and her assistant Lucas Roth, noticed something dark under the melting ice. At first they thought it was rock. Then cloth. Then metal. Jess knelt. Her breath caught. Not one body. Not two. Dozens. German and Allied soldiers. Perfectly preserved, eyes open, skin intact, uniforms crisp. Standing mid-motion like mannequins trapped in time. Some reaching forward. Some shielding their faces. Some screaming silently. Jess whispered. This isn't natural." Lucas backed away. "Jess, their eyes." Jess looked closer. The pupils were glossy. Wet. Alive. Impossible. Jess radioed base. "This is Marshall. You need to send a team, now. This is a mass glacial entrapment. Preserved bodies. Condition, unknown." Base responded. "Copy that. Extraction team is on the way. Touch nothing." But Lucas was staring at his camera screen. He had taken a photo. On the preview, the frozen soldier's eyes were looking straight ahead. He blinked. Checked again. Now the eyes were looking directly at him. Lucas dropped the camera. Jess frowned. "What happened?" He whispered. "They moved." Jess exhaled sharply. "No. That's impossible. It's your nerves. Stress. Parallax effect." But she didn't sound convinced. The glacier groaned beneath them. A crack split the ice. Jess stumbled back as another soldier appeared, this one Allied, his hand grasping the frozen air like he was inches from grabbing help. A metal canister clinked out of the ice and hit Jess' boot. German writing. A hazard symbol. She brushed off the frost. Stoff X-13. Project Nebelgeist. Fog Ghost. Jess whispered. "What the hell were the Nazis doing out here?" A joint US-EU research convoy arrived by helicopter. Leading them was Dr. Andrew Coyle, Pentagon consultant in biochemical warfare history. He looked at the preserved soldiers with fascination, not fear. 75 years in ice and no cellular degradation. This is beyond natural cryostasis. Jess crossed her arms. Or something prevented decay entirely. Coyle turned sharply. "Meaning?" Jess pointed at the canisters. "Experimental gas. Nazi program. Classified level toxic. Something meant to alter biological processes." Coyle carefully bagged one container. "It will be studied at the research base." He paused. "And the bodies will be transported as well." Jess hesitated. Should we, really move them? Coyle smirked. Don't tell me you believe in curses, Dr. Marshall. Jess shook her head. I believe in environmental systems that don't like being disturbed. The soldiers, German and Allied, were loaded onto trucks. The air felt heavier, colder. Lucas whispered. I don't think they want to be moved. Jess didn't disagree. As the final body was lifted, a soldier's helmet slipped. Lucas reached to fix it. And the soldier's head twisted slightly, as if following his hand. Jess gasped. The team froze. Everyone stared. The soldier didn't move again. Coyle barked. Muscle contraction from thawing. Perfectly normal. But his voice wavered. Jess pulled Lucas aside. That wasn't muscle contraction. Lucas nodded. I know. Austrian Alps Bioresearch Facility. 24 hours later. The preserved soldiers, over 40, were placed in sealed temperature-controlled chambers. Jess reviewed the gas canister with a microscope. The compound wasn't normal. It behaved like spores. But metallic. And reactive to warmth. Coyle entered the lab. Any findings? Jess sighed. This gas isn't meant to kill. It's meant to stall. It freezes biological decay, but also stimulates neural preservation. Coyle raised an eyebrow. Meaning? Jess looked at him. It keeps the mind intact. Coyle exhaled slowly. Why? Jess met his eyes. So they could be revived later. 2:41 a.m. A camera feed in chamber 4 flickered. A frozen German soldier's finger twitched. Once. Twice. Then the entire hand clenched subtly. In chamber 2, an Allied soldier blinked. Slow, stiff, unnatural. In chamber 6, a helmet slid off as a soldier's neck muscles flexed. Jess was reviewing data when she heard the intercom crackle. Security voice trembling. Dr. Marshall, you need to get to the preservation wing, now. Jess ran. When she arrived, 4 guards were staring at the observation windows. She followed their gaze. And her blood ran cold. Every soldier's eyes were open. And all of them were looking toward the security room camera. One guard whispered shakily. They're waking up. Jess approached the intercom mic. Can any of you hear us? Do you understand? Silence. Then a voice came through the recording device on the table. A soldier's voice. Old. Cold. And not fully human. Jess froze. The device wasn't playing any clips. It was recording. Yet the voice whispered through it. We never died. The guards backed away. Another whisper layered on top. We're still fighting. Jess slowly stepped back from the glass. The frozen battalion, German and Allied alike, stared at her through the chambers. Then. All at once. All of them inhaled. Every scientist, every guard, every staff member in the preservation wing froze as the impossible happened. Dozens of soldiers, German and Allied. Men who had been frozen for 75 years. Inhaled simultaneously. A long, shaky, rattling inhale. Like air hurting their lungs. Like their bodies remembered how to breathe. But forgot how to be alive. Jess could only whisper. No. That's not possible. The temperature inside the chambers rose by 1 degree. Just 1. But it was enough. Their jaws flexed. Fingers twitched. Eyes rolled beneath eyelids. Tendons vibrated under ancient skin. Jess ran to the control panel. Drop the temperature back down. Seal the wing. Guard Rivera slammed the button. But the panel buzzed red. System override, manual lockout active. Rivera swore. Doctor, someone disable temperature control. Jess's stomach dropped. Coil. Jess stormed down the hallway and shoved open the restricted archive door. Coyle stood at a desk surrounded by old Nazi documents preserved in seal bags. He wasn't surprised to see her. Jess snapped. What did you do? He turned calmly. Nothing more than reactivate an experiment the Germans ran out of time to finish. Jess stared. You thawed them. Coyle corrected her. I revived them. He held up a document stamped with a black eagle and swastika. Project Nebelgeist, Phase 3. Fog Ghost. Jess snatched it. Inside were diagrams of the soldiers strapped inside canisters of gas. Notes scribbled by Nazi scientists. Gas X-13 preserves the human brain at moment of death. Upon rewarming, neural signals return. Mind reactivates first. Body follows. A soldier who never rots, never sleeps, never stops. Jess felt sick. They weren't creating super soldiers. They were creating eternal soldiers. Coyle nodded proudly. Imagine an army that never dies. Bodies frozen in time, revived when needed. Germany failed. But we. Jess slapped the file. They were frozen because the gas malfunctioned. It didn't turn them into super soldiers. It trapped them between life and death. She leaned forward. And now you're thawing an entire battalion whose last memory is being hunted and killed. Coyle whispered. That's the point. Jess stepped back. You don't understand what you've unleashed. Screams cut through the facility. Jess and Coyle bolted to the preservation wing. Security cams flickered. Chamber 4 was open. The frozen German corporal, the one who twitched first, was gone. Blood streaked the floor. Jess whispered. Where's Rivera? A body slumped against the wall. Chest crushed inward. Like something squeezed the life out of him with bare hands. Jess covered her mouth. God. The lights went out. Darkness. Emergency red lights flickered on. A shadow moved between the chambers. Slow. Heavy. Deliberate. Jess whispered. He's loose. Coyle whispered back. He's functioning exactly as the documents predicted. Jess snapped. He killed a man. Footsteps echoed in the darkness. Metal scraping. The corporal's silhouette appeared at the end of the hallway. Still wearing his 1944 uniform. Still frost clinging to his hair. His face pale and cracked like stone thawing too fast. His eyes, no longer dead, were pitch black, pupils blown wide. Jess whispered. He can see in the dark. The soldier turned his head slowly toward them. Bones cracking as if frozen joints struggled to move. Then he spoke. A dry, icy, broken voice. Feigned. Enemies. The lights flickered. He charged. Jess grabbed Coyle's arm and pulled him through a door into the deeper level. The security blast door slammed behind them as the corporal hit it full force. The metal denting outward like it was struck by a car. Jess leaned against the wall, breath shaking. This base isn't built to hold things like that. Coyle wasn't afraid. He was exhilarated. His motor skills are returning faster than anticipated. The others will follow. Jess shouted. You don't revive soldiers frozen mid-battle. Their last memory is war. Alarms blared overhead. Containment failure, chambers 1 to 8 breached. Additional movement detected. Multiple subjects active. Coyle stared at the monitor as feed after feed turned red. One Allied soldier rising out of his chamber. Another German soldier walking stiffly, fingers curling like claws. A third pounding the glass from the inside until cracks spiderwebbed across it. Jess whispered. They're waking up together. Coyle whispered. They're remembering together. The speakers crackled. Voices layered over each other. German, English, French. Not alive. Not dead. Something in between. Whispers echoing through the vents. They ran. We chased. They killed us. Finish the fight. Jess backed away from the door. The soldiers weren't attacking at random. They were searching. Hunting. Reenacting their final moments. The war never ended for them. Coyle breathed. Incredible. Jess clenched her fists. Inhuman. Footsteps above them. Dozens. Marching. A battalion waking up. She whispered. Coyle, how many did you thaw? He swallowed. 43. Another thump overhead. Then another. Then dozens. Jess whispered. They're moving as a unit. Coyle stared blankly. They're still soldiers. Another whisper slid through the vents. We never died. We're still fighting. Jess grabbed Coyle's coat. We have to shut the power, freeze them again, and call the military now. But the alarms suddenly stopped. All lights went dead. The facility went silent. Not dark. Empty. Jess whispered shakily. Why did everything stop? A voice answered behind them. Not human. Not living. Cold as the glacier they came from. Because we shut it down. Jess slowly turned. In the darkness, dozens of silhouettes stood shoulder to shoulder. German and Allied uniforms. Frost dripping from their helmets. Eyes glowing with unnatural life. And at their center. Captain Wilhelm Krantz himself. Face cracked with ancient ice. Jaw stiff. Eyes black. He whispered. The war is not finished. The facility trembled as the frozen soldiers in chambers 1 to 8 fully thawed. Jess and Coyle watched in horror as the Allied and German soldiers rose simultaneously, eyes open, bodies moving with stiff, unnatural precision. They weren't confused. They weren't lost. They were organized. Soldiers of different nations, enemies, now functioned as one cohesive unit. Coyle whispered. They're reenacting the combat scenario from the Alps. Every step, every command, preserved in memory, like perfect programming. Jess shook her head. This is a nightmare. They remember nothing except war. The battalion moved as a single wave. They began breaking through doors, crushing reinforced gates with frozen fingers and unimaginable strength. Security cameras captured the impossible, soldiers walking through walls and machinery, bending reality like their bodies obeyed laws of physics that no human could. One of the German soldiers, Krantz, paused in the hallway. He looked at Jess. His lips moved, but no words came out. Then he snapped his head toward the blast door. A command. The rest of the battalion surged forward, descending on the research wing. Jess grabbed a nearby fire extinguisher. If they touch us, they'll crush us. Coyle stayed calm. They won't stop until their orders are complete. They don't fight humans, they fight targets defined by the last memory they had. Alarms blared. Red emergency lights painted the walls. The soldiers ripped through the base methodically. Rooms that were secure 1 minute were destroyed the next. Jess ducked behind a console as an Allied soldier reached through the glass of a containment chamber, clawing at the frost inside. Stop! You're not alive, she screamed. The soldier tilted his head, then let out a guttural sound, like metal grinding. Coyle whispered. They can't comprehend death as we do. They don't recognize it. Another guard screamed as a German soldier lifted him effortlessly. The man's spine twisted unnaturally, then the soldier let him fall. The body didn't crumple fully, like the muscles and ligaments were frozen in a partial loop. Jess gasped. There, halfway between life and death. Jess grabbed the radio. Base command, this is Dr. Marshall. You need to evacuate everyone immediately. We have a full battalion of frozen soldiers, thawed. They're acting, alive. They remember combat. Static. Then a whisper in German. We're kämpfen weiter. Jess froze. She recognized it from the old Project Nebelgeist files. We continue to fight. Kranz's voice. Jess and Coyle ran to the elevator, hoping to reach the underground storage levels for emergency shutdown. As they ran, soldiers appeared in the hallways like statues coming to life. Fingers twitching. Eyes focused. Weapons raised mid-grip. The frozen battalion had perfected their combat formation. Jess whispered. They're still following their orders, but the enemy is, everything. Everything we do is a target now. Coyle paused at the elevator. The gas X-13, it not only preserved their bodies, it preserved their instincts. Every reflex, every reaction, stored like an AI memory module. They're unstoppable, until we stop the source. Jess glanced at him. Meaning we destroy the gas containers. The entire lab. Everything. Coyle nodded grimly. They reached the underground labs. Chambers 9 to 12 had additional frozen soldiers waiting. When Jess entered, the sensors triggered. The newly thawed soldiers immediately aligned themselves, moving toward the upper floors. Jess saw the chaos on the monitors. Labs shattered. Glass tanks overturned. Staff members screaming and running. Soldiers tearing doors off hinges. The battalion was enacting a centuries-old memory of hunting and killing in perfect unison. Jess whispered. They think the base is the battlefield. We're part of it now. Coyle pressed a series of manual shutdown buttons, attempting to depressurize and refreeze the chambers. Nothing happened. The system was offline. The gas had made them immune to normal controls. Krantz appeared at the top of the stairs, leading his soldiers. The battalion moved down in perfect military order. Jess realized the horrifying truth. They weren't trying to escape, they were continuing their mission. To kill the enemy, clear the area, and continue fighting. And the enemy was anyone who disturbed their glacier sleep. Krantz stepped closer. Eyes black, pupils dilated. Muscles tense and frozen like steel. He whispered to his unit. Virgiltung, jetzt. Retribution, now. The soldiers surged forward. Jess and Coyle sprinted toward the secondary exit. The battalion split, Krantz and select Germans pursued Coyle, while the Allied soldiers blocked Jess. Every step was precise. Every movement lethal. Every twitch of muscle designed to neutralize threats. Jess realized that the battalion's last memory wasn't just war. It was survival and killing with surgical precision. As they ran, the whispers filled the vents, layered over each other. We never died, we are still fighting, we are soldiers forever. Jess covered her ears. They're not alive. They're preserved combat instincts. Coyle shouted from the stairs. The X-13 gas. It doesn't just preserve flesh. It preserves their combat memory and instinct. They're not humans anymore. They're weapons. Jess realized the base itself had become the battlefield. Every hallway, every room, traps for the living. The soldiers weren't hunting individually. They were operating as a single tactical unit. Jess gasped. If we don't escape, the base becomes a permanent battlefield, and no one survives. S and Coyle reached the emergency exit stairwell, but the hallways above and below were lined with soldiers, each frozen in mid-step yet moving with terrifying precision. Jess whispered. They know where we are. They're predicting us. Coyle nodded. The gas preserved everything, their reflexes, their tactical memory, even the way they hunt. We have one chance: hit the control room, trigger the emergency freeze, and collapse the facility. Jess swallowed hard. And if it fails? Coyle's face went pale. Then we die. And they keep fighting. The stairwell shook as Krantz and a group of German soldiers advanced from above, while Allied soldiers blocked the floor behind them. Every step they took was synchronized. Every twitch, every muscle contraction perfectly mimicked life, but it was wrong. Jess's heart raced. Her hands shook as she keyed the override for the emergency system. Coyle shouted. Get ready. Once we trigger it, it will depressurize the chambers and refreeze the soldiers, but the process may destabilize the base. Jess nodded. The two sprinted into the control room, doors slamming shut behind them. The control room was flooded with blinking panels and monitors. On every screen. Soldiers walking in loops. Security breaches. Structural alarms. Suddenly, the glass shattered. Krantz's face appeared, frozen but moving, as if time itself obeyed him. He whispered in German. Könnt uns nicht stoppen. You cannot stop us. The other soldiers surged toward the doors. Jess grabbed the manual shutdown lever. Coyle shouted over alarms. Pull it. Pull it now. The lever slammed into place. The facility shuddered violently. Air vents hissed as a dense, chilling fog spread. Soldiers inside the chambers stiffened. Muscles locked. Eyes wide, then glassy. Those outside stumbled and froze mid-stride. Krantz screamed, a human-sounding scream, distorted, frozen in terror, then stopped. The entire battalion fell still. The emergency freeze had worked, temporarily. Structural alarms screamed. Walls buckled. The ceiling cracked. Jess and Coyle sprinted toward the exit as explosions from the base's collapse rocked the facility. Frozen soldiers, now suspended in ice and fog, tumbled as concrete and metal fell around them. Jess glanced back. Through the falling dust and frozen chaos, she saw dozens of black-gloved hands, perfectly preserved weapons, and the eyes of the battalion still fixed on her. Coyle shouted. Move! Don't stop! The building shuddered one final time, then a massive explosion sealed the underground labs. The last sound they heard before escaping into daylight was the faintest whisper on the wind. We never died, we're still fighting. Outside, Jess and Coyle collapsed in the snow, breathing heavily. The base was a smoking ruin. The glacier above it seemed unnaturally still, as if it were holding back secrets. Jess whispered. They're still out there. Preserved. Waiting. Coyle nodded silently. We contained them, for now. But the war never really ended for those soldiers. It never will. Above the ruins, the wind carried the faint sound of marching boots, soft, synchronized, endless. Jess shivered, knowing the battalion's eternal combat memory had survived the collapse. She looked at Coyle. Do you think anyone will believe this? He shook his head. No. But the soldiers, they remember. And that's all that matters to them. The camera pans upward to the glacier, sunlight glinting off its ice, revealing tiny shadows moving beneath the surface, as if the frozen battalion were simply waiting for the next thaw. Subscribe to the channel for more chilling World War II survival horror stories. Like the video if you enjoyed this battle against the impossible. Got a story from history or legend? Share it in the comments, your tale could be next.